Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Yellow Chair devotional. We're in the final week of Advent. Every day we're slowing down. We're taking some time to look at the story of Christmas through new eyes, looking at all of the details, seeing all the gifts that Jesus gives us. He is the greatest gift of all, and at Christmas we celebrate Him coming as a baby, and that is what Advent means. It also reminds us to be excited and to look forward to when Jesus comes again someday at the second Advent. All right, so let's pick up where we left off yesterday in the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John, yesterday we talked about how Jesus is light. He is the light that shines in the darkness. Well, what do we do with this light? Right? We talked about how the enemy, the serpent Satan, he likes to cover us with darkness so that we feel like there's no way out. But Jesus' light, that light casts away the darkness. The enemy has been defeated. And because of that, we've got good news to share. We wouldn't want anybody to live in that darkness anymore, would we? We want everyone to know about the light of Jesus. And so in John chapter 1, verse 6, we're going to see what happens next with this light. Remember, this was light with a capital L, meaning that it's a name, it's a person named Jesus. So we're going to read John chapter 1, verse 6. Pause the video if you need more time to find it for yourself. When you're ready, hit play, and here we go. John chapter 1, verse 6 says, "There was a man named John who was sent by God. He came to tell people about the light. Through him, all people could hear about the light and believe. John was not the light, but he came to tell people about the light. The true light was coming into the world. The true light gives light to all." All right. Lot being said in just a few short verses, so let's unpack this a little bit. What John are they talking about? Because it's a little confusing because we're in the Gospel of John, but the Gospel of John was written by the disciple John, one of Jesus's 12 disciples. When it says in verse 6, there was a man named John who was sent by God to tell people about Jesus, this is referring to John the Baptist. John the Baptist went ahead preparing the way, the Bible tells us, and he's telling everybody about Jesus. And isn't that true? Because he came to tell people about the light. He was not the light. And we know that when John the Baptist was preaching and teaching and baptizing people, he goes, "Someone is coming who is far greater than I. I'm not even worthy to tie his sandals." He's going, the true light is coming. Get ready. Jesus is coming. So John didn't want to steal the spotlight, so to speak. He wanted to point it on Jesus, the true light. He wanted everybody to know that Jesus was coming and to believe in Jesus. So what we see here in verse 9 is that John was to tell people about the light. The true light was coming into the world. And what does the true light do? Who's the true light? Jesus. And what does Jesus do? Gives light to all. And we touched on that yesterday, right? When we've got the love of Jesus in our hearts, when we've got Jesus's light casting out the darkness in our lives, then we're shining that light in the lives of others too, right? That light, we want to share our light with everybody because that true light gives light to all, and then we can share that light with others. But I want you to think about something here. I want you to think about how it says the true light. The true light. Maybe there's a favorite Christmas book, a story, or maybe a Christmas movie that you love to watch every single year. And maybe some of them, are they a little too good to be true? Are they a little too good to be true? There's some really fun stories, fun movies at Christmas time, but are all of them true? That's what makes them a story, right? Now, we kind of poke fun at how at Christmas time, like places like the Hallmark Channel or Netflix or whatever, they make a ton of Christmas movies, and all of these Christmas movies sound the same after a while. There's a boy and a girl, and they fall in love through some weird scenario, and they live happily ever after, and then it starts snowing, and it's Christmas, right? You go, oh, that's too good to be true. It's a warm, cozy story, maybe. Maybe it's a little cheesy, but that's too good to be true. Well, think about John the Baptist when he's telling people about Jesus, when he's telling them that someone is coming who is greater. Do you think people maybe went, John, you're crazy. What you're saying can't be true. And maybe John goes, no, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth. Hear what I'm saying. Believe it in your hearts. I'm telling you the good news. Now, what word in the Bible do we know is translated into good news? It's the gospel. The gospel, it's the good news about Jesus. And that's what John the Baptist was sharing. He goes, everybody, hear and believe in this good news, in this gospel. And I'm telling you, it's true. It's true. It's a true story. And maybe people went, well, I need to believe it and see it for myself before I can believe it. I got to see it first. Well, that's where that word faith comes in, right? Where we believe it even if we haven't seen Jesus. And that's where John the Baptist goes, hey, I am not the light. I'm not the one, but I want you, in verse 7 where it says, through him, all people could hear about the light and believe that it was true. So when we tell others the good news about Jesus, when we tell others the gospel, it is so amazing. It fills us with so much joy. But also think about how it's one thing to tell a fun story like a Christmas movie, or maybe a story like a Disney movie like Cinderella, a fairy tale or something. Those stories are fun, but they're stories. Jesus, he's the true story, right? He's the true story. And sometimes people might look at the story of Jesus and go, oh, that's a fairy tale. That's make-believe. That's just a movie. We go, no, it's true. Hear it. Believe it in your heart. Let the light of Jesus come in and shine on you. It'll cast out all the darkness. You know, Jesus said in Mark chapter 13, verse 10, the gospel must be preached to all the nations. He wants everyone to know the good news, the true story about him. And so faith, believing in Jesus, comes when we hear that true story. And when we turn to Jesus and we receive all that Jesus gives us, that's a happily ever after. So Christmas is a time that tells us that Jesus came to give us the gospel, the good news, the true story of his love, his forgiveness, that he is the word, that he is the light, that he is life, and everything else we've been seeing this entire Advent season. It's a true story, and we're going to want to share that with others. So let's talk about that a little bit in some discussion questions, and I've typed them into the video description below. All right, so I want you to think about John the Baptist. What did John know about Jesus that gave him the courage to tell others the good news? What did John know about Jesus? Did he know that Jesus was who he said he was? Did he know that Jesus truly was the Son of God, that he was the Savior of the world? Did John believe that? And because he believed it, he wanted everybody to experience and believe it too. Now, we know that God sent all sorts of people to get ready and to help Jesus spread the good news. Can you think of some? We already covered John the Baptist. We looked at Simeon and Anna, right? They were telling everybody about Jesus. Did the shepherds go after they saw Jesus in the manger? Did they go and say, we got to tell everybody? The wise men, do you think they kept that to themselves once they got home? What about as Jesus grew up? His friends, maybe people at church, and his community. Eventually, Jesus had disciples, he had followers. All of these people wanted to tell others the good news, the true story that Jesus, he is the light of the world. You've got to hear it. You've got to believe it. It is such good news. So now I want you to think, maybe you have a friend, a family member, a classmate who maybe they think they believe in Jesus, but they don't have that actual light. Maybe they believe in like a make-believe fairy tale version of Jesus. They haven't seen Jesus for the good news of who he really is. What are some ways that we can share the good news of Jesus? Some of us might be really good at just using our mouths and telling them, saying, oh my goodness, Jesus did such an amazing thing in my life today. You wouldn't believe it. Some of us are so good at telling. Some of us, maybe it's just a quiet, compassionate, being supportive, having the love of Jesus in our hearts that we show towards others. You know, my mom used to say when I was little, sometimes we're the only Bible that people will ever read. You're the only Bible that people will ever read. So how do we treat people? Right? Do we have the love of Jesus in our hearts? Do we have the light of Jesus shining through us? That's one way that we're able to share the truth about who Jesus is. What else? What are some other ways that you think? Maybe through artwork, through music, through stories. There's so many different ways. Whether you're really loud and outgoing, or maybe you're a little more quiet and behind the scenes, Jesus uses all of us to share the true story, the good news about who he is. We want his light to shine on everyone. Let's say a prayer now together. Dear Jesus, we are so thankful that you are real. You are a true story. You're not just a Christmas movie. You're not a fairy tale. You are real, and we hear that, we believe that, we receive your love and light and life into our hearts. May it pour out of us, and may we share that good news with others. We thank you so much for your love. In your name, amen. All right. For today, December 21, we see that Jesus' story is true. Jesus' story is true. On the back, I want you to reflect a little bit. Reflect a little bit about, well, what if someone says that Jesus' story isn't true? Then what? What are some ways that maybe you can share or show the love of Jesus to someone who doesn't think that Jesus' story is true? Because we want everyone to know it. We want, like John the Baptist, to hear it and receive it, believe it. So we know that Jesus' story is true. How do we help others who go, no, that's a load of baloney? How do we help others? How do you, with your special gifts and your personality and the way that God designed you, what are some ways that you can help others hear the good news about Jesus? That Jesus' story is true. He loves each of us so very much. He wants his light to shine upon us. So I'm going to add my link to the chain. We only have a few days left, but look at all of these beautiful gifts, the amazing things we know about Jesus. And we'll continue to celebrate all the way to Christmas. I'll see you tomorrow.